But what I don't respect you for is the fact that you're not abiding by the concept of logic. Instead, you're using emotion as your core methodology. The sad part is you are operating by emotion, but you're still using the mask or the costume of logic, and that distorts how people think. It doesn't help people think logically, it doesn't help people think objectively. You know what it does teach people? It teaches people to emotionally react to things and then rationalize it. That is the wrong message that you do not want our generation or the coming generation to have. That is not what your legacy should stand for, Shwetabh. Hello everyone, welcome to the Apex Mind. Today's video is going to be very different from our regular formatting. Today I am not doing live philosophical cognitive thinking with the help of an AI. Rather, today I'm going to cover a YouTuber, someone who I cherish with my heart because he's someone who taught a younger version of me to think objectively, to put logic into things, think from a third person point of view, and to keep your own personal opinions and emotions aside when analyzing a situation. Who now seems to have fallen down the same rabbit hole that he told me and many of my generation not to do. His name is Shwetabh Gangwar, and I'm going to react to his video about the rebel kid, Apurva, and the entire controversy going on around that. So let's see what he says and what can we gather from it.
तुम्हारी सक्सेस, तुम्हारा पैसा, तुम्हारे जो करोड़ रुपए बनाने, तुम्हें जो लाखों रुपए बनाने हैं, तुम्हें जो घर बनाने हैं, अपनी मानसिक स्टेबिलिटी, फाइनेंशियल स्टेबिलिटी, अपनी समझदारी, इन तीनों चीजों को चरम सीमा।
No, I'm not going to help promote Shwetabh's whatever plan that he's selling right now. This is also a recent problem that I've had with Shwetabh's content, is the fact that he actually emotionally appeals to you, in a way emotionally manipulates your desire to achieve success in your life to sell his 1500 rupees program that he has. Shwetabh, I get it, you have to make a living, and I get it, you're going to give the excuse of, okay, this is just to help my subscriber, this is just to help young people do something about their life, and I'm providing a nice service. That is fine. The problem that I have is with the manipulative practice of how you sell it. Right? You appeal to their emotions, you appeal to their insecurity in order to sell it. You're no better than the brands who sell skin lightening creams in the name of beauty by preying on your audience's insecurities. Please do something about that, just to have some form of integrity.
जिंदगी में आप जिस भी लैंड में हो, जिस भी ज्योग्राफी में, और इस वक्त हम पर्टिकुलरली बात कर रहे हैं ज्योग्राफी की जो है इंडिया, और हम बात कर रहे हैं जैसे रेबल किड हो गया, जितने भी जेंजी के लोग हैं, इनका तरीका में भी ऊपर जाने का इतना ब्रैश हो, इतना, और इनको वो चीज बहुत ही क्लेवर लग रही हो, बहुत ही एक्चुअली चेस मूव की तरह लग रहा है कि भाई ये चीज में यूटिलिटी, हम यहाँ पे ये गेम खेलते हैं, यहाँ इधर हमें ये रिलेशनशिप बिल्ड करनी चाहिए, इधर ये अलायंसेस बिल्ड करनी चाहिए, हो सकता है लोग के लिए टू अ ग्रेट डिग्री बहुत सारे लोग नियर अलायंसेस हैं अपने आप को फर्दर करने के लिए आगे। मेरे को फायदा क्या मिल सकता है, जिससे मुझे सबसे ज्यादा फायदा मिलेगा, उससे मैं अपने पेरेंट्स से बात करूंगा, उतना मैं भी टाइम दूंगा उस इंसान को, रिस्पेक्ट दूंगा, और जहाँ पे इतना नहीं है वहां पे मैं तो अप्रोच जो हो जाती है वो काफी मैकेविलियन है, काफी कैलकुलेटेड, हर मूव आप कैलकुलेट कर रहे हो। एंड हियर्स द थिंग, इट डजंट वर्क, लाइफ डजंट वर्क दैट वे। व्हाई डजंट इट वर्क दैट वे? बिकॉज़ हम में से किसी को नहीं पता कल क्या होने वाला है। इट्स एज सिंपल एज दैट।
ठीक है, I get the entire premise that he's talking about, which is basically that be nice to everyone, at least be nice to the people who are around you every single time that you go out and interact with people, especially when you're on your way up, because how do you know when you do come back, when you come down, or when something or the other happens in your life, you don't have to kiss someone's ass, right? So be nice to everyone. Let's see how that worked out for certain individuals. I'm specifically talking about Ranveer Alavadia. Man is a friend to everyone, man is nice to everyone, to left winger, to right wingers, to people in party, to religious people. He was nice to everyone. What happened? Who came to support him? No one did. So it doesn't really matter whether or not you're nice to anyone in principle, right? It's a good practice to do, because maybe if you're nice to people around you, you'll get benefits out of it later, and that takes into consideration your blind spots also, right? I don't know which person is going to come use to me later on. So if I'm nice to everyone, I just increase my odds in a way. But it's also problematic, because when you don't take a stance, when you don't have an identity, when you don't declare for yourself what your boundaries are, how are you as a person going to stand out, and what the hell do you even stand for as a person? What principles do you hold? Let's assume I am extremely against drug use. I am someone who's hyper against drug use, who believes that to be morally wrong. So if I am following Shwetabh's advice, now I have to be nice to drug users. Sure, I might as well be, but that that sacrifices my integrity, that demeans my integrity, that dulls my integrity. Because at the end of the day, when you're nice to people but you're behind their back, you're against what a lot of their identity stands for, then you're not a nice person, you're merely a snake. At the very least, Gen Z is not pretending to be a snake, I guess. Even with Apurva, she's brash, she's whatever the hell she is. I don't necessarily condone her behavior, firstly. But what I do condone is the freedom, A, to be who you are, and the fact that you need to stand up for yourself. Maybe her approach is not right, and it really isn't right. But in principle, you should stand for who you are, and you should keep evolving your principles as well. That does not mean that today I decide this blue bottle is my principle, right? Loving this blue bottle as my dear friend is my principle. No, it's not logical. It's not serving a greater purpose. There are a lot of integrities or intricacies to what you can make your principles, but it is important to have principles. And therefore, this advice by Undertaker is a nice advice in as a preventative measure, as a safety measure, but definitely not a nice advice as being who you are or someone who's going towards the top of the mountain. The point is, make decisions on a point to point basis. Don't just follow these whole ass very broad strokes advices by people.
सारे एक्टर्स हैं, एक्ट्रेसेस हैं, या फिर कितने सारे सेलिब्रिटीज हैं जो 90s 2000s इन सब में इतने बड़े थे जिसकी कोई हद नहीं है, आज एग्जिस्ट नहीं कर रहे हो। फेम, पैसा, फेज में कमाना और एक मेंटेन करना दो अलग चीजें हैं, तो बहुत डिफरेंट गेम है। आप एक फेज में डोमिनेट कर सकते हो और वो हो सकता है बिकॉज आपका टैलेंट इतना गजब है इसलिए आप कर पा रहे हो, लेकिन जो लोग मेंटेन करते हैं कंसिस्टेंटली डेकेड्स में, वो बहुत दूसरा गेम खेल रहे हैं। वो गेम खेल रहे हैं जहां पे वो जितनी भी पार्टीज के साथ रिश्ता मेंटेन कर रहे हैं, जो फीलिंग्स वो देते हैं सारी पार्टीज को, वो है कि भाई वो डिपेंडेबल है, कंसिस्टेंट है, डिसिप्लिन्ड है, रिस्पेक्टफुल है, हेडेक नहीं है। याद रखना ये बहुत बड़ा फैक्टर है कि अगर आप हल्का से किसी को अनॉय करते हो, फिर इंसान को लगता है थोड़ा सा ज्यादा है, इस इंसान का एटीट्यूड ज्यादा हो गया है, कोई भी नेगेटिव वैल्यू अगर आप दे सकते हो, अगर किसी को भी हाई लग रही है, तो होगा क्या, उनको जिस भी क्षण तुम्हारा कोई भी रिप्लेसमेंट दिखेगा जिसको वो कंट्रोल कर सकते हैं, और वो हमेशा आएंगे बाय द वे लाइफ में, पॉपुलेशन इतनी ज्यादा है, तुम कोई यूनिक नहीं है, सबके रिप्लेसमेंट बैठे हैं। द सेकंड उनको रिप्लेसमेंट मिला ऑप्शन, वो एक सेकंड में रिप्लेसमेंट उठा लेंगे। काफी लोग हैं, आई थिंक, जो ये फेथ।
What Shwetabh is trying to imply here is that if I was nice to people, if people are nice to people and you're a nice, respectful person, unlike Apurva, then you will be stuck around by these people and that you will not be replaced. That is a nice guy, so a nice guy's finished first sort of mentality. That is not real life, Shwetabh, and that is not real life for every one of you. The fact is, no matter how nice you are, no matter how moral you are, hell, maybe even dependable you are, does not matter if someone is providing what you are providing for cheaper, for easier, for less hassle. Yes, in principle, when he says that, like, decrease the friction that you have with parties, right? Like, make it easier to work with you. That makes sense because you're reducing hassle, but that does not make it so that you will not be replaced. You will still be replaced. The key factor, the core axiom of not being replaced or sustaining your accumulated wealth or accumulated fame is not to be nice to people. It is to learn to pivot, to learn to keep upskilling, to learn to know where the gap in the market is and capitalize on it. And it stands true for whether you're a comedian, whether you're an actor, whether you're a YouTuber, whether you are a performer, whether you are actually a businessman. Doesn't matter who you are. That core principle stands true. Learn to pivot, learn to upskill, keep growing. Because people will replace you. You just have to create more and more value around yourself. Create a center of gravity in which you attract all sorts of fame and wealth and keep attracting, right? Because more heavenly bodies will come. You just have to be, You just have to be larger and larger and heavier and heavier.
कॉमन सेंस से देखा जाए तो भाई 60 प्लस अगर किसी उम्र है तो जाहिर सी बात है उनका शरीर आराम डिमांड करता है। हो सकता है एक और पर्सपेक्टिव हम ऐड कर सकते हैं कि जीवन में उन्होंने इतना चीजें जी ली हैं, इतनी चीजें देख ली हैं, उस पूरे आप ईयर्स को अगर कलेक्ट करोगे तो मे भी उनके पास इतने लाइफ पर्सपेक्टिव्स है कि उनको चैन से पॉप आउट करने की जरूरत नहीं है। वो इतने सॉर्टेड हैं उनके नजरिए में कि भाई उनको पता है कौन सी वो चीजें हैं जिनके बारे में दे वुड लाइक टू गिव अ क्रैप अबाउट। एंड मे बी अ लॉट ऑफ थिंग्स जो आपको अर्ली 20s में या फिर अपने टीनेज ईयर्स में लग रहा है कि मुझे इस वक्त फेम, पैसा और इस सब चीजों के लिए भी बहुत सारा कुछ ड्रामा करना है, वो इंसान जब नहीं कर रहा वो सेम चीज, तो मे बी देयर जस्ट चिलिंग। हैविंग सेड दैट, अगर वो इंसान एक कप उठाए ब्रेकफास्ट का जिसके अंदर खाना है और किसी के मुंह पे मार दे और फिर वो इंसान पलट के उसको गाली बके, मेक सेंस, वारंटेड था। बट ये सिचुएशन जहां पे 20 साल के अर्ली 20s के लोग बैठ के इन जनरल रेफरेंस ये XYZ इंसान के बारे में बहुत जनरल बात करने वाले हैं, मेरी बहुत जनरल टिप्पणी है, कोई नेगेटिव टिप्पणी भी नहीं है, सिंपल ये है कि ऑब्जर्वेशनली दिस पर्सन डज नॉट गिव अ एफ, वेरी चिल्ड आउट पर्सन है, आई डोंट इवन थिंक ही इज सीरियस अबाउट दिस गेम, दैट्स व्हाट देयर ऑब्जर्वेशन इज। मे बी अगर मैं जनरली रेफर कर रहा हूं उस कॉन्टेक्स्ट में वांटेड नहीं है उसको गाली बकना। सेकंड, उस कॉन्टेक्स्ट में मे बी जितने भी कल्चरल नॉर्म्स हैं जिनको हम सब फॉलो करते हैं, जिनमें कोई खराबी नहीं है, एक्चुअली रिस्पेक्टफुल हैं, उनको फॉलो करने में भी कुछ नहीं जा रहा। ये आज
Wait. Okay. Firstly, I fundamentally disagree with Shwetabh here in the sense that he is there in the game. They have an objective, and if he's not following that objective or at least he's not performing in the most optimal capacity of that objective, that is something that people can talk about, right? Hell, if you work in a corporate job, for example, and your boss is very senior to you, right? Your boss is 60 plus years old, and then he just lounges around in his job and he just like uses his phone and he is not hardworking like you are you really not going to say something similar to what Apurva did? Are you not really going to make fun of that? That here we are working, here I am working for 10, 12 hours every single day, and my boss is just lounging around in his cabin doing nothing. It wouldn't matter that he's 60 plus years old at that point, right? Because there was an objective that you were supposed to perform. You took forward a responsibility when you got into that game, when you got into that job, and when you're not performing optimally, obviously people are going to make remarks. So that is completely wrong. And the second point, Shwetabh talks about tradition. Again, it's a appeal to emotion, it's an appeal to culture, an appeal to tradition or collectivistic thinking of sorts. Just because something has been traditional, just because something has been cultural, does not make it the right thing to do, right? Hell, I'll give you an example from the Indian culture itself. Sati Pratha was a practice in which women used to basically put themselves on the funeral pyre of their dead husband in order to die with him. That was a malpractice, but that was also something which was embedded in certain parts of the country as their culture. That changed. Why? Because just because something is cultural, just because something is traditional, does not mean that it's correct. But I'm suspecting that Shwetabh is going to give a more nuanced take on this. So let's see what he says.
चीज के आदमी है यार, है और हैं में जमीन आसमान का डिफरेंस होता है ना। हमारे देश में हम जैसे बात करते हैं बुजुर्गों के बारे में, अपने बड़ों के बारे में, अपने बड़े भाई के बारे में, अपने चाचा मामा किसी के बारे में भी। ये तो हमारे दादाजी की उम्र की बात हो गई। मेरे लिए ये मेरे पिताजी की उम्र की बात हो गई। मैं 35-36 का होने जा रहा हूँ। अगर मेरे पिताजी जीवित होते तो इस उम्र के होते इस वक्त। सोचो मेरे पिताजी के बारे में अगर कोई बात कह रहा हो, मेरे पिताजी कहीं पे भी हो और कोई मेरे से 10-15 साल का छोटा इंसान बात कर रहा है मेरे पिताजी के बारे में, जो कैसा आदमी है यार, मैं नहीं कह रहा कुछ करो उसके बारे में, जस्ट फीलिंग में रजिस्टर करो, हाउ डज इट फील एंड वो क्यों फील करते हैं।
Again, appeal to emotions. Then the boss that you're making fun of, he's also someone's dad, right? They can get offended. But does that mean you saying that your boss is lazy, was that the wrong thing to do?
अगर तो अमेरिका को हटा दो, आई डोंट नो, अमेरिका में भी मैं इतना कह सकता हूं बहुत सारे ज्योग्राफिकल लोकेशन मिलेंगे जहां पे उनके पिताजी के बारे में भी या फिर किसी बुजुर्ग के बारे में वैसे बात करो उनका भी दिमाग खराब होगा। लेकिन अगर अमेरिका को हटा दो, मैं तुम्हें इतना लिखित में कह सकता हूं यूके को हटा दो, मोस्ट यूरोपियन सोसाइटीज, जापानीज, रशियन, कोरियन, लैटिन अमेरिकन, साउथ अमेरिका जितना भी हो गया, अफ्रीकन, पूरा अफ्रीकन कॉन्टिनेंट उठा लो भैया, कहीं पे भी बुजुर्ग के बारे में ऐसे बात हो रही हो, लोगों का दिमाग खराब होगा। ये आर्गुमेंट तभी स्टैंड करता है अगर हम कह रहे हैं हम सबको अमेरिकन की तरह एक्ट करना है, वो भी।
Again, now he's appealing to other cultures. Like our culture wasn't enough as is. Shwetabh now has to appeal to every single other culture. Oh, but it's not this 1.4 billion people who have that in their culture. It is just 3.6 billion people. So now that I have increased the number of cultures, suddenly it becomes the right thing. Just because something is popular does not make it right, right? The countries elect so-called dictators as their leaders, and it's a democratic choice by the country. Does it make it the right choice? No, it isn't. So why is this the case here? That's completely illogical.
वो भी सबसे ज्यादा इल मैनर्ड एंटाइटल्ड मंदबुद्धि अमेरिकन की तरह। तब मैं समझ सकता हूं ये आर्गुमेंट, और मैं ये नहीं कह रहा कि डिफेंड करने के पॉइंट ऑफ से समथिंग लॉजिकली फील्स रॉन्ग अबाउट इट इफ वी इवन लुक एट इट ऑब्जेक्टिव।
Something logically feels wrong about it. I want you guys to sit with that sentence for a moment. Logically feels wrong about it. Shwetabh says logic in the same sentence. He appeals to emotions. The kind of cognitive dissonance here, oh my god. This is poetic irony. He talks about logic, yet he appeals to emotions. He's not logical, right? He's just using logic as a scapegoat he's using logic as a shield against criticism. You're not thinking logically, Shwetabh. You are appealing to your emotions. Even your own tongue knows that.
Something feels logically wrong about it. Observationally, you know why? Because this is the popularization of stupidity. जहां हम 14 से 20 साल के इंसानी दिमाग को यूनिवर्सलाइज कर देते हैं, यानी ये यूनिवर्सल बिहेवियर होना चाहिए। आपको ऑब्जर्वेशनली दिखता है कि इसमें बहुत सारी चीजों की कमी है, कंसिडरेशन की कमी है, समझदारी की कमी है, इंपल्सिव बिहेवियर, इंपल्सिविटी बहुत हाई है, ब्रॉडर कॉन्टेक्स्ट कंसीडर नहीं कर रहा इंसान, जो मुंह में आया बोल दिया। इसीलिए इन उम्र को आप चाहे कितनी रिसर्च में भी चले जाओ, न्यूरोसाइंस की लेके, चाहे साइकियाट्री की लेके, चाहे साइकोलॉजी की, आपको सबसे ज्यादा इंपल्सिव, सबसे ज्यादा रिस्क टेकिंग, सबसे ज्यादा मंदबुद्धि डिसीजन जो इंसान लेता है वो टीनेज ईयर्स के होते हैं। इवन दो आई अंडरस्टैंड तुम्हारा रेबल किड इज नॉट तुम्हारा टीनेजर, शी इज लाइक अर्ली 20s, बट तुम सर्कल में वही हो ना ऑब्जर्वेशनली। इसीलिए 40 साल का इंसान, 35 साल का इंसान, जो उतना ही इंसान है जितना ये है बाय द वे, जो सुधांशु जी थे, उनको भी जो लगा, क्यों लगा? क्योंकि सुनते ही अजीब कुछ गलत सा लगता है। लेट्स से 14 से 19 साल के दिमाग की खुपड़ी ऐसी चीजें निकल के आ रही हैं, इसमें भी बुराई क्या है? अगर मैं किसी 60 साल के इंसान को कहता हूं ये बी सी एक्स वाई ज़ेड, एंड दैट्स हाउ आई एड्रेस पीपल लाइक दैट। पहला, सुनने में ही ऑब्जेक्टिवली इट्स कन्फ्रंटेशनल,
सुनने में ही इट्स ओके, लेट्स कंटिन्यू।
इट में सिग्नल की इंटेंट है डिसरिस्पेक्ट की। तीसरा, आपकी रिलेशनशिप खराब होंगी। इन जनरल ऑब्जेक्टिवली आप रिश्ते बनाने के बजाय बिगाड़ रहे हो, क्योंकि नेगेटिव कॉनोटेशन है। मैं वो भाषा जो एक हो सकता है 14
Okay, I can't take this anymore. Shwetabh, you took the data set of a study of teenagers and you're putting it on Apurva, who's in her, I think, mid to late 20s. That's a completely different cohort. It's like me talking about toddlers and then I'm talking about preteens. It does not make sense. One age group is going through puberty and the other age group has completely developed their prefrontal cortex. Her brain is completely developed. She's an adult. She's been an adult for at least the last 7 years. Do you get it? Of course you don't. So a problem that I have had with the recent videos of Shwetabh is the fact that he uses data, observational studies and throws around buzzwords in order to give some sort of authority to his emotional arguments. Those arguments were completely made out of emotions. Look at how many times he uses the word feel. Look at how many times he uses the word something inside or something like that. The point is once again just talking about emotions. His emotions is the wolf which is hiding in the skin of the sheep, which is logic, right? He's Trojan horsing emotion into the structure of logic, right? The hell are you doing?
It sounds alienating. It does not sound welcoming. It sounds alienating. Second, it sounds negative. It is negative. So simple, दो चीजें psychological.
So should negative words be banned completely? I mean, I'm just taking what logic you're giving and extrapolating it to the entire system, and it doesn't work.
I think हमारा time यही आ गया. We're trying to be Americans, and I think हमारे जो majorly Gen Z, थोड़ी सी middle class, upper middle class की जहाँ beyond चले जाते हो, उनकी पूरी upbringing तुम्हारे Gen Z American creator से हो रही है. और उसका रिफ्लेक्शन आपको दिखता है, जैसे ये बात करते हैं हैंड मूवमेंट्स एंड इट्स लाइक गिविंग, एंड जो भी तुम बातें कर लो वो सारी तुमने उठा के डायरेक्ट कंज्यूम कर ली, अडॉप्ट कर ली, अमेरिकन स्टाइल ऑफ स्पीकिंग से करिए. नथिंग रॉन्ग अबाउट दैट. आई एम जस्ट लोकेटिंग द सोर्स. प्रॉब्लमेटिक तब हो जाता है जब आप उसको उस ज्योग्राफी में अप्लाई कर रहे हो जहां पे मे बी कोर फीचर्स ही नहीं है. वो ट्राई टू अंडरस्टैंड, ये जो आप कर रहे हो ना वो चाइना में एप्लीकेबल है. हो सकता है आप आर्गुमेंट कर लो कि हम इंडियन पिछड़े हैं, ये जापान में भी नहीं चलेगा, ना ये कोरिया में चलेगा, ना ये चाइना में चलेगा. तो ये बावसी आर्गुमेंट मत देना कि इंडियन कूल नहीं है या समथिंग लाइक दैट.
ठीक है, then I'll give you a better argument. Just because something is traditionally liked or traditionally agreed upon does not make it the objective right thing to do. Just because a culture has been there for a very long time, even if it is for the eastern side of the world, does not make it a prescribed way of being. A person can decide what they want to be, and cultures do evolve with time, right? You're speaking this to be some sort of American culture transit. By the way, this also happens in corporate, right? We are encouraged to talk to our seniors by their name because it makes it so there is no power imbalance between the two people. Because once power imbalance is there, the lines of morality, the lines of culture, hilariously enough, the lines of objective good and objective bad, they start blurring in the name of respect. People manipulate that, and that is why it is problematic. And if whether it comes from America, whether aliens come and give it to us, if it is a step that our generation is taking, it is a step in the right direction to be able to say what you want and to judge people on the basis of objective good and objective bad. You shouldn't judge Apurva or judge anyone because they said the word, I don't know, because they abused someone who was older than them. You should judge her because she abused. If you discourage those words, then you talk about those words. Don't put it into context of who she said it to. That goes completely against morality, which is considered to be objective. And I thought objectivity was Shwetabh's domain. Anyway, so to summarize all of this, Shwetabh is a creator who teaches his audience objectivity, who teaches his audience to think logically, and I really respect him for that. He gave me, my friends, and our entire generation the way to think objectively. But I feel like now that you are both growing older, Shwetabh, and churning out a lot of content every single day, you've gotten rusty. You've lost your edge of logic. You might have read a lot more studies, and I really respect you for the fact that you do upskill yourself. You are abiding by those standards that you set for yourself. But what I don't respect you for is the fact that you're not abiding by the concept of logic. Instead, you're using emotion as your core methodology. The sad part is you are operating by emotion, but you're still using the mask or the costume of logic, and that distorts how people think. It doesn't help people think logically, it doesn't help people think objectively. You know what it does teach people? It teaches people to emotionally react to things and then rationalize it. That is the wrong message that you do not want our generation or the coming generation to have. That is not what your legacy should stand for, Shwetabh. Get better on this. Get ahead of this. Don't let it be your legacy for now. And for everyone else, I hope you enjoyed this reaction. I hope you enjoyed this breakdown. I have a lot more thoughts on Shwetabh and a lot of other Indian creators also, what their core philosophy is, what their psychological aspect is, and ultimately the direction which they are headed, and what that says about not just YouTube, not just social media, but our culture as a whole. Maybe I'll cover it in other videos. If you guys do want me to do that, let me know down in the comments, and do check out my other videos also. This was a video which was very different from my regular videos, which are more or less life philosophical dialogue with AI, and trust me, those are worth it, because I believe I've given like university level lectures. I mean, I'm not good at speaking as well as I am good at abstract thinking and logic. So you might find some amazing mind-breaking insights on those live videos, live unscripted, unedited videos. This one was also unscripted, but I did not have my partner here. Anyway, see you guys next time if you do decide to come check out my channel. And remember, as I always say, patterns, they're everywhere.